What is up, guys? Ncaa 31 here, and here it is, my full review of Ncaa 13. We're in the run and shoot in a friends list game online. You know where I'm headed, straight to the depth chart and putting in Gunner. I roll with the gun. Gunner is the best overall thrower. Tommy Reese has the better accuracy, but his arm's a bit of a noodle. And actually, a very neat visual effect. I was playing a game against the computer, and Gunner was a little bit shaky on the road. Swiggly lines everywhere, question marks on the icons. His icon, his hot-cold indicator was blue. Having a rough time, so I had to put in Reese to pull the game out. And a neat visual effect when I went to replay a completion downfield that he had, Reese's deep ball wobbles to reflect that his arm isn't very strong or isn't as strong. While every replay I observed of Gunner's downfield throws, much more tighter, crisp, and bullety or bullet-like. Nice tight spiral and much more zip on the throw. So a nice little visual touch to kind of illustrate the lack of arm strength or the differences in arm strength between the quarterbacks. And as far as the passing mechanics go, they are really, really nice. The run and shoot is opened up big time. I can run route progressions and make throws and route combos that I could not do last season because deep defenders can no longer cover multiple guys at once. How many times have you tried to flood a zone in Madden 12 or Ncaa 12 only to see a guy be able to take away both receivers? Those days are gone. There was some knee-jerk panic over the zone coverage and how the read and react is affecting zone coverage. And stepping away from the initial impressions and taking time to play games and to see what is happening and why, I've become convinced that, again, that 70 to 80% threshold that the Sim Standard talks about, and that I agree with actually, holds true. More often than not, they are reading and reacting logically based on how good of a player they are, based on how good their zone coverage rating, play recognition, and awareness ratings are. And between 20 and 30% of the time, you will see someone make a unjustifiable, inexplicable decision. That will happen. But I think, or not think, I'm convinced that by and large, Read and React is doing its job. There are some rough edges that need to be patched, I think can be patched to help reduce that 20% to 30% wig out factor, but overall, it makes the game much better, much more of a free-flowing, risk-reward football experience, which is the way it should be. My opponent scores a touchdown later on in the game because he sends two receivers deep at one defender. My safety, my strong safety, had to choose based on who he sees first and who's his first immediate threat. He chose one guy, the other guy was open. That's football. Let me mention my biggest dislike and pet peeve: the game plan settings. Get them out of the game. They don't belong in the game. There's more than enough tools to work with between the player ratings, the plays. There are some new defensive plays and defensive formation substitutions. For example, I saw a 4DE's dime package where you can put all your defensive ends along the line of scrimmage. Great for getting your best athletic pass rushers on the field if you're a team that is deep at defensive end. Get those defensive tackles out of there and get guys who can get after the quarterback. It'll help improve your four-man rush and help you get more athletic guys to spy mobile QBs. But the game plan features should not be in the game. Pass commit, run commit, jump snap, all that stuff. We play two games, me and this guy here. One that is completely game plan free, which I think plays very, very well, provided you use your noggin, and the other with the game plan settings on. And here I get a sack because my coverage held up and my power rusher was able to bowl his lineman back into the quarterback. Much, much better offensive-defensive line interactions at times. You will still see the legacy pity pat at times, or boom bust, either I win or I lose decisions. But mix into that, you will see a much more dynamic looking struggle take place as well, as you saw in that sack. But the second game that we played that had the game plan settings was not nearly as good. It felt much more cartoonish. For example, while jump the snap isn't as powerful as it was in previous seasons because of them not snap jumping all the time, and plus when you vary your snap count, you can protect yourself from it triggering too often or as often. There was no rhyme or reason to when they were jumping the snap. Times when you want them to jump the snap, like for example 3rd and long, they wouldn't. They just did it arbitrarily. And again, with pass commit, while yes, it'll help reduce your guys' probabilities from falling for play action fakes, and also help you get a better initial pass rush burst out of your front four, there's no real downside to guessing wrong. Sure, you'll get hurt by the occasional draw, delay, counter, or what have you. But I had plenty of times in the game when I pass committed, he ran and was able to, stuff his run. More times than it hurt me. So what's to stop me from pass committing all game and using run blitzes to stuff the run when I feel like he's going to run? Nothing. Not enough risk reward in those things. And who wants to see an online game when some idiot has his ball strip on aggressive and you see that stupid strip animation over and over and over again?
And here's a quick throw.
User control seems to be a little bit less tight. Or I should say, I don't know how to describe it as either less tight, less loose, less responsive, but it's not quite as free as it has been. It's a lot harder to strafe, get out of your strafe, and roam for that user INT. Option defense. And here's that touchdown I spoke about where my safety had to choose between who he wanted to pick up or who to pick up based on what was happening in front of him. You can't cover both. Option defense. You'll still see instances of defenders strafing away from the play.
Looks like an option here.
And it's completely random. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You still occasionally see that bug where where a defender will backpedal and allow a lane to open up. That shouldn't be there.
The defense got some pressure and forced a bad pass.
Computer option execution, very hit or miss. It's been an area that's been a problem for the development team for quite some time. Getting consistent, good execution, running the option, especially with teams that run option-heavy offenses. You'll still see occasional questionable CPU play calling. Sometimes you will see the CPU call plays as if they're graduates of the Art Shell School of Clock Management. I had a game where, in a tight game, late in the game, CPU called 2 consecutive between the tackle run plays with 1 timeout left and left themselves with 1 second left to perform a last-ditch Hail Mary play. The CPU will still occasionally jailbreak blitz in illogical situations. Not as much as in the past with these brain farts, but they're still there. Again, the 20 to 30% range. The lighting effects. Not a big fan of the lighting effects. They do some very strange things to some of these helmets. Notre Dame's helmets, as the
1st and 10, ball on the 39-yard line.
Afternoon and early evening games turn to night, gradually become brown. I played Boston College in a night game, and their helmets looked like Ohio State's. The lighting effects are actually worse than last year's, and I can't understand how or why that could be the case.
He's taken down at about the 47.
Run blocking. I do notice that on counters and on plays that require a lineman to pull, there will be instances where the pulling lineman will either do that, head upfield prematurely and get me killed, or get outside and occasionally stop.
With the same game plan as before. You don't make changes after
I noticed that when I don't use auto sprint and lay off the sprint button, it helps them out a little bit, but they still do it occasionally, and when it does happen, it can really ruin a run. Again, a good pocket bend there, but unfortunately Denard Robinson escapes and does what he does. So overall, despite some of the quirks that the read and react system does create occasionally, like there I widen my safeties in order to give that wide side safety a better angle to cut off any outsider route that's being run there, and it paid off. And that's why I don't head online right away. It takes time to feel these things out and learn, you know, what you have to do. Coverage audibling is going to be very, very important. When you're flooded, make sure that you're shading your zone coverage the proper direction, so you don't get outnumbered towards one side of the field, things like that. But overall, really like the game, having a lot of fun with it so far. It's got some issues that are certainly patchable, you know, legacy issues that I said, you know, that I've mentioned, and some rough edges in the read and react system that could be cleaned up to get that percentage of plays where people make, you know, indefensively bad decisions. Get that percentage down, maybe from 20 to 30 down to 15 to 20 or 10 to 15. Game plan features, in my opinion, still ruin the game or make the game feel more cartoonish and arcadey.
On the field, they're changing the play.
And that's pretty much it off the top of my head. If I forgot something, you know, it's not because I deliberately forgot it, it's because I just didn't think of it. There I got a sack. I was able to beat the lineman clean. I'm not a big fan of how sometimes a lineman can slide over to pick you up out of the blue. It didn't hurt me there because it just freed up somebody else, and it helped, you know, push the pocket back a little bit more. My coverage held, but I earned that sack. I should have been rewarded for getting it. I don't like how sometimes a lineman can just, you know, slide over and get you from the backside, from the opposite side.
Take a look at our choice for today's player of the game. He made a
but overall, a very good game. If I had to choose between the two, my hunch is Madden is going to benefit from having a larger development team and having an extra month to smooth out some of the rough edges that you see in the read and react system in this game.
So that wraps things up for us.
Me being a college football maniac, it's a definite upgrade from NCAA 12 and a very fun game. If I'm someone who is only going to play one of the two games, I would probably choose Madden. For the reasons I just said, I feel like that they're going to have the benefit of being able to have an extra amount of time to clean up the rough edges, and plus with the physics engine, it's going to add a whole new dimension to the game as well. So overall, we should have two very, very good, improved football games to play. If you don't like the game, you don't like the game. Keep on doing what you do. But for those who like the game, you're going to have a very fun year. Talk to you all later. Peace.